A foggy January morning in the south of France. Farmer Boisset and his pig are trying to sniff out one of the world's most mysterious crops. They're hunting the black truffle, not a chocolate, but an exotic species of subterranean mushroom prized for its unique, musky flavor. The truffle's humble appearance, much like a small potato, is deceptive. But these days, truffle harvesters face a crisis.
Il n'y en a pas assez. Autrefois, il y en avait partout. Et maintenant, il n'y en a pas partout. Des fois, il faut faire 2 chaînes sur 30. C'est ça. Tous les chaînes ne donnent pas de truffes. Hein?
That's bad news for Farmer Boisset and for his pig. To understand the problem, you first have to understand how the truffle grows underground. Every year, thousands of truffles are harvested. But some remain underground, releasing spores from which tiny filaments emerge. These filaments, called mycelia, grow around tree roots, eventually forming a special type of growth, part tree, part truffle, which helps both feed each other. 7 years after the spores are first released, the mycelia mysteriously knit together to form a truffle that will be ready for harvest. And that harvest goes on sale here in Lalbenque, 400 miles south of Paris. This historic market is devoted exclusively to truffle trading. Truffles are still available, but only in very small quantities.
Regardez, monsieur, le peu de truffes qu'il y a. Je ne sais pas si vous vous rendez compte, monsieur. Il y en a très peu de truffes.
The annual French harvest has dropped from 1,000 tons to 50, and that sent prices through the roof. At 2,000 francs per kilo, that's $175 a pound. There's hard bargaining and careful weighing. So for anyone who can dream up a way of improving the truffle harvest, there's big money to be made. 6,000 miles west of Lalbenque, just outside Davis, California, these two researchers may have perfected the world's first artificial truffle. Dr. Moshe Shifrin, the project's director, has to solve one key problem: how to mimic the truffle's natural life cycle in the laboratory. This tiny piece of real truffle contains spores which will, if left for several weeks, produce mycelia. In nature, tree roots provide this delicate growth with nutrition. But here in California, the mycelia don't need trees. They flourish on a top-secret liquid medium prepared by Dr. Shifrin and his colleague, Randy Dorian. As the truffles reach maturity, temperature, light level, and humidity are all strictly controlled. The result is a biological breakthrough, not a truffle as we know it, but a carpet of truffle-like material.
In nature, truffles grow exclusively in association with the rootlets of oak trees. Most people have assumed that there is an absolute requirement for that association, but we've found that, in fact, if the right conditions are simulated in the laboratory, that the truffles will develop quite nicely in the absence of oak trees.
Of course, with this method, there's no danger of a truffle shortage. But these sheets of growth are too delicate to be sold on the mass market. So instead, they're dried and then ground up into a fine powder, or mixed with olive oil. But there's one crucial question left. Does this product have the unique flavor of the true French black truffle? Dr. Shifrin chooses to sample a mix of artificial truffle
Boys, that look good.
and vanilla ice cream.
It's really good.
Still, Frontiers wanted a second opinion, and so we took the California powder back to France.
Pure black truffle. Qu'est-ce que c'est? C'est pas... Ça me paraît pas très bon, hein?
Chef Pierre Cog is skeptical. He's going to make 2 omelets, the first with artificial truffle.
Alors, je verse mes œufs dans la poêle. Je vais faire l'omelette baveuse. Voilà. Voilà l'omelette américaine. Alors maintenant, je vais faire une omelette aux truffes françaises. Voilà, je la fais cuire. Je vais la faire cuire baveuse. Une omelette, ça se mange très baveux. Voilà, je vais la rouler sur l'assiette. Voilà. Maintenant, je vais la décorer un petit peu.
It's all preparation for Frontier's first blindfold taste test. How will the artificial California truffle perform? It's a tense moment.
C'est un goût fade.
On dirait presque une omelette nature.
Voilà.
On ne retrouve pas du tout le goût de la truffe, qui a un goût vraiment particulier.
Our tasters claim that the artificial truffle is totally tasteless. How about the real thing?
Oui, là, c'est un goût qui est vraiment totalement différent. On sent bien la truffe.
Now, with the blindfolds removed, what's the verdict?
Ben, il y a une nette différence, hein. On ne peut pas comparer. Les 2 goûts sont totalement différents. Il y a un goût pour une omelette et une deuxième omelette sans goût.
But why doesn't the artificial truffle taste like its French cousin? Jean-Marc Olivier leads truffle research for France's Department of Agriculture.
It's not a truffle smell.
But it's hard to make an exact judgment on the basis of scent alone. So Dr. Olivier's team decides to take a closer look at the artificial truffle. Is there any visible clue which could explain the lack of the authentic taste and smell? Here's how the powder looks through the microscope. Thin strands and clumps of loosely scattered material. To an untrained eye, it's hard to make a quick analysis. But Dr. Olivier can tell at a glance that there's a crucial element missing.
No spore, no sign of spores. That means that it's sure it's not a true mature fruit body. If we have a mature fruit body, it's necessary to find spores, and here is nothing.
Under the microscope, the difference is clear. The California powder appears to be composed of chopped-up mycelia, but real truffles, what Dr. Olivier calls the mature fruit bodies, contain tiny bags filled with spores, the seeds that produce mycelia that will themselves eventually form more new truffles. So the California truffle mimics part of the natural process by producing mycelia, but it doesn't appear to copy that mysterious final stage of development which produces the mature truffle. And that means one thing's for sure.
So far, despite all the research all around the world, nobody reached to get a truffle without a host tree.
At this nursery outside Bordeaux, Pierre Abersang grows thousands of oak and nut trees, just the species with which truffles grow well. He and Jean-Marc Olivier have developed a simple way to help nature along and thus restore the French truffle industry. They try to guarantee a bumper truffle crop by spreading a special mix of truffle spores and nutrients onto the medium that will hold the young tree's roots. If the bond between tree and truffle can develop at this nursery stage, then it should be well established when the tree is planted. It's a fragile union that depends on 2 key elements: the potency of the truffle spores and the health of the tree's root system. Now Dr. Olivier's group has come up with a way to marry tree and truffle even earlier. Every tree in this laboratory forest is genetically identical, cloned from a hybrid chosen for its hardiness and elaborate root system. The clones are a perfect match for this priceless raw material, thousands of spores of the black truffle, which could eventually restock France's truffle grounds. In a controlled environment, the natural process is copied precisely as each tree receives a carefully delivered dose of truffle spores. Early in 1998, these infant trees will have grown up, and best of all, their rich harvest of natural truffles will be ready to eat.
We like truffle very much in France. For dinner, it's a delicacy. It's a wonderful thing, truffle.
So in comparison to California's artificial truffle project, the French approach stays very close to nature. And this natural approach will produce powerfully flavored truffles that should keep Farmer Boisset and his pig happy for years to come.
Truffles are not a major part of my diet, but I do enjoy them. And I'm an even bigger fan of American innovation. So I think the California truffle deserves a second shot. That taste testing in Bordeaux, come on, guys. A French chef, 2 French taste testers. It's not exactly what I'd call an unbiased test. So we're gonna do it again, this time in a traditional American institution. One of the problems that I had with the French taste test was that the blindfolds couldn't hide the texture difference between the California powder and the natural truffle. So we've gotten a new sample of the cultured truffle, which looks and feels a lot more like the real thing. Our master chef, Pat, chopped them both up and added the same amount to each omelet. I don't know which one is which, so here goes. Well, this one has a fairly strong flavor that's not particularly pleasant. There's a pretty heavy, mushroomy aftertaste. This has a nice, complex, musty flavor. So it looks as though I agree with the French judges. But hey, California wines were a little rough around the edges at first, too. Keep trying, guys.